Despite graduating with honors, I faced challenges finding a job as many companies were hesitant to hire female engineers for operations role. Preparing for the national postgraduate program, which eventually led me to a fully funded seat at Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur.
I just want to make sure we understand the quality of that college where you did your bachelor's and master's.
And as I said, entrepreneurship has its own aha moments. All the profits goes into your own pocket. That is, you are driving your own bottom line and top line.
This industry is getting more and more open for women empowerment.
With both my kids heavily involved in competitive sports along with the regular academia, and my husband working in the global sales function, I had to somewhat reevaluate my career path forward.
You were only few females in your class, as you were telling me before. Then you came to US, took that corporate role, then leadership role, and then you were podcasted by yourself.
The silver lining, and the silver lining is when you are the only female most of the time in the room, try to look at the silver lining having the spotlight on you.
So what changes you might have seen today as compared to what you have seen before?
The adaptability that we have shown as an industry in terms of agility, collaboration is spot on. And that's something that has changed compared to past many decades. It's crucial to confront and overcome internal biases that suggest one cannot be a dedicated parent and a leader at the same time. So it's very important to challenge the internal fear that you can't excel as both a mother and a professional simultaneously. Of course you can.
This is the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show, where we are going to invite industry leaders to talk about their journeys and also technologies of tomorrow in an effort to break some of the biases that might have formed around this energy industry. Hello everyone, I hope you are happy and healthy. I'm Ananja and you are listening to the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show. This is the mini-series on the journeys of leaders who have made it big in this industry while breaking some of the biases around them. And today I'm very happy because I will be joined by one of the prominent faces in the energy industry, Rakhi Oli, who is the global business leader at Flowserve. She has more than 2 decades of experience while working across different continents, and she's really passionate about energy transition and climate change. So welcome, Rakhi Oli.
Hey, thank you so much, Anand, for having me over. It is truly my pleasure. You are doing a commendable job, amazing job with this initiative, and I'm super excited to collaborate with you.
Thank you. So as I said, you had a commendable career in this industry, and I'm looking forward for our interesting conversation today. But before we deep dive into all the details of energy industry and everything else, I'm curious to know about your personal and professional journey that help you to reach wherever you are today.
Sure. Anand, that's a very comprehensive question. I hope I'm able to give you some interesting nuggets in a couple of minutes. Well, I grew up in a middle-class family in India where financial constraints kept me from pursuing my dream degrees in engineering or medicine at out-of-state colleges. Instead, I opted for a fully funded seat to study chemical engineering at Mumbai University in 1997. Despite graduating with honors, I faced challenges finding a job as many companies were hesitant to hire female engineers for operations role. I often received feedback that my skills exceeded their needs, but undeterred, I took a position as an ad hoc lecturer at my undergraduate school while preparing for the national postgraduate program, which eventually led me to a fully funded seat at Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, which I'm sure you might be aware. It's one of the top tier institutes.
I want to stop you there. So if you don't know about IIT College of Engineering in India, this is one of the premier college in India. So if you don't know, maybe check with one of your Indian colleague or friend. They must be knowing about this college. I just want to make sure we understand the quality of that college where you did your bachelor's and master's.
Sure. I would say, Anand, this advanced degree helped me confront biases in the energy industry as a first step. So through the campus recruitment, I then secured a position with Johnson Matthey Chemicals as a plant operations engineer for their manufacturing facility in the UK, marking my debut into the energy sector in 2004. That same year, I married my engineering classmate. And the next 3 years were a challenge as we navigated through a long distance relationship while I adjusted myself into my first international job. In 2008, then we moved to US with my 2-year-old daughter. And we started a new life altogether. Over the next decade, I worked with leading EPCC and North American EPCC contractors like Wood Group, CB&I, McDermott, and Lummus, and later transitioning to roles with developers like Rio Grande LNG, while embracing motherhood again with the arrival of my son. In 2019, I took the leap into entrepreneurship and founded Net Zero Consulting LLC, where I gained invaluable experience in business as well as leadership while managing several decarbonization and energy infrastructure projects development in Canada and the US single handedly. So I must say, Anand, that entrepreneurship has its own very exciting aha moments, and I believe you will agree
I
to
can
that.
imagine. From outside, it looks very interesting,
Yes.
but you have done both roles,
Yeah.
corporate and entrepreneurship. Let's talk a little bit more about it. How
Yeah,
was your
so
experience?
yeah, sure. I had my own lessons learned, I would say, from corporate working for big corporates before I transitioned into, consulting side and running my own show. So those lessons learned came very handy for sure. And as I said, entrepreneurship has its own aha moments. All the profits goes into your own pocket. That is, you are driving your own bottom line and top line. So it's good. It's very exciting. But then it has its own unsexy side to it as well, while it comes to navigating competing priorities. And by 2022, with both my kids heavily involved in competitive sports along with the regular academia, and my husband working in the global sales function, I had to somewhat reevaluate my career path forward and decided, and that is when I decided to return to corporate America and I joined Flowserve. This was 3 years back. And the last 3 years, I must say, it has been equally exciting because now I have lessons learned from running my own show, which I bring over here. And it has been very rewarding at the same
Yes.
time. Very recently, I wrapped up my senior executive program at the Wharton School. I have celebrated tons of my children's achievement, and I have had the greatest opportunity to travel across the globe to speak at several global conferences and received a few industry awards, including ExxonMobil's Global Ambassador Award, which I cherish the most. So, in summary, Anand, my career as well as my personal life haven't followed a very planned, meticulous path, and with all honesty, it hasn't been walk in the park. All my achievements, big or small, have been shaped by adaptability and perseverance. And the highlight has been coming out of the comfort zone all the time. I think teeing it back to what your podcast is all about, it's breaking the bias in all the levels and every now and then. I truly believe, Anand, that life is all about the choices we make, and each of them shapes our identity. So that's my story, and I hope it brings value to the audience.
And that's definitely that brings a lot of value to the audience. And during this journey, you have broken many of the biases. You were only few females in your class, as you were telling me before.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you came to US, took that corporate role, then leadership role, and then you were podcaster by yourself. So it's a great journey that we can all learn from it.
Yeah, and Anand, that to a certain extent, I always look at the silver lining as well. So we are breaking the biases. As a female in oil and gas industry, several times we have broken the biases. But we should also look at the silver lining. And the silver lining is when you are the only female most of the time in the room, try to look at the silver lining having the spotlight on you, right?
That's great.
So, yeah, so I believe I have always, as I said, my nature is I try to look at the positive side and what aspect, what silver lining is there in that entire game. So I just
You made a
wanted
really
to
good
leave you
point.
with that thought.
Yeah, either you can go in the victim mode and say, I'm the only
Yeah,
one, and other way around, like I'm the only one with all the spotlight on me. That's
yeah,
that's a really, really good way to see things around us.
yeah. And the senior stakeholders, specifically the male senior stakeholders, they are always helpful. They are there for you.
I have seen that. I have seen this industry is getting more and more open for women empowerment, and you, one of the good example. I have seen you speaking on different platforms about these energy topics. So I have seen how this industry is encouraging female to take more and more roles at the senior level.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's great. So as you know, this is Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show. So we talked about your journey, but now we are switching the topic and something close to this industry. You have a really great experience, like more than 2 decades experience in this industry. So what changes you might have seen today as compared to what you have seen before?
See, first and foremost, we are more adaptable, and you would agree with that, Anand. As an industry, holistically, we have become more adaptable to the changes. We have become more agile. So
Yes.
that is the fun part, you know. And we all are amid energy transition. I mean, energy
Yes.
transition is not a choice anymore. So in the ever-changing business environment, we have to be agile with our decision making. We have to collaborate immensely across all the different levels and across the wider stakeholders. And we have to continuously innovate. And the adaptability that we have shown as an industry in terms of agility, collaboration is spot on. And that's something that has changed compared to past many decades.
No, I can imagine. Now this industry brings more opportunities than what we used to have in the past.
Sure.
That's how I see. It's going through transition, not just energy transition, but the business is transitioning itself.
Sure.
And there are new startups are coming, new small companies are coming. They have really innovative ideas on carbon capturing to green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, and everything is bringing new aspect to the business.
Sure.
So if somebody is looking to make a career or business in this industry, I think this is the right time.
This is the right time. Indeed, it is the right time.
Right. I'm going back to the journey that we talked about. You have came a long way from where you have started. But if you have given a chance to relive your journey, what changes you might make?
So kind of advice to my younger self, you mean,
Yes.
right? That's an interesting one. And I believe, this is my favorite topic, Anand. I can speak for hours on this topic because believe me, I have done a lot of mistakes at past. I would rather consider them as stepping stones, which has shaped me and who I am today. So, first and foremost, I would request my younger self to dare to make big, bold decisions and choices that are impactful and very timely. And of course, stay strong to those choices with resiliency. So
Makes sense.
that is my one biggest takeaway. The hardest thing, and why I highlight this as my top takeaway, because the hardest thing that most young professional and mainly women face is finding it difficult to make the right trade-offs. You know, I'm talking in the business language now.
Yeah. It's
We
okay.
really find it very hard to make trade-offs. But the more I have matured in leadership roles, I feel leadership and success are not about hitting that right balance, but rather it is making those trade-offs at the right time. And I do believe if I had a time machine to go back, I would pursue those trade-offs, which I did not at the first place. So that is one takeaway. Secondly, what I can think of my feet is it's crucial to confront and overcome internal biases
Hmm.
that suggests one cannot be a dedicated parent and a leader at the same time. Over the past 5 years, I have had the greatest pleasure, connecting with several C-level women executives, and many of them shared the same sentiments. So it's very important to challenge the internal fear that you can't excel as both a mother and a professional simultaneously. Of course, you can.
That's a really good point. Sorry to interrupt you there. I think
Yeah.
many of the women in this energy industry or in general, they must be in the same boat
Right. Right.
because they're always debating can they excel on both sides, and you have shown, and there are many other women in this industry or outside this industry has shown this can be done.
Yeah, yeah. And Anand, it's not moving away from those fears. You will always come across those fears, but it is introspecting, self-reflecting, and coming back with a bang and coming back with a strong thought process that, yes, I can do it. So first of all, those internal biases we have to fight, then we can fight the external biases. And I believe, these thoughts can for sure hinder our career development and weaken our resolve. So I believe it makes a lot of sense to fight those internal biases first and make ourselves, strong to fight the external biases. So that's my second takeaway. And the third piece of advice I would give to my younger self is to build a professional network very early in your career.
It's very important. Yes.
I'll be very honest, I didn't have my first industry mentor or my first a networking event until 7 years ago. And believe me, the impact of my mentors has been immense, So I would advise my younger self or the new professionals coming into the industry to focus on creating that ecosystem of mentors, sponsors, allies, and peers who can support your leadership journey. And firsthand, I can say that having a network of like-minded leaders as your sounding board can tremendously help you to break through those internal as well as external bias.
Definitely. So few things I like to highlight here. First of all, when you talk about those continuous debate, I think it's a ingenious dilemma. We always go into what if scenarios, and we talked about this what if scenarios one of the episode of Oil and Gas Breaking by show. How much that evaluation or assessment is needed. But that's true. I think most of us go through those what if scenarios. At a time, we have to decide is enough, and let's move on with the decision that you have made.
Yeah. And the first step is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable situation. Anand. Once we are internally convinced that yes, this is going to be uncomfortable. And I always remind myself of Ginny Rometty's statement that she made. She's IBM's former chairperson and CEO. She said growth and comfort cannot coexist.
It goes back to risk and reward, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
So once we are comfortable accepting that, acceptance becomes significant. Once we are comfortable with that thought process, I believe it's just a matter of um, breaking it head on. Yeah.
Definitely. And the second thing you talk about building a network, I think we are living in the world of social media,
Sure.
which is much easier to build your network than what you used to be in the past.
Sure.
So use these opportunities. Either go to LinkedIn or some other social media, or also there are many other different platforms,
Sure.
either in person or online. So it's much easier than what you think. I can share my personal experience. When you reach out to someone for help or support, most of the time you will get a positive response.
Yeah.
So that's again, there's a bias among yourself. Like when you think you might not get a positive feedback, but I have done by myself, and I could say that most of the time you get a positive response, and the people around you always ready to support.
Yeah. They are there to help. It's just a matter of you being bold and reaching out to them.
And definitely, like initiatives always stays with you. The other thing, just continuing this theme, what would be one key takeaways for someone who is looking to make big in this industry as a career or business?
Wow, that's again a very comprehensive question. And I'll be with all my honesty, Anand, that there is not one mantra, I'm afraid there is no one mantra that will help us, be there. I would highly recommend the listeners, as well as if you would like to check out my published paper at LinkedIn on shifting paradigms, which holistically captures the mission critical leadership principles and takeaways from 7 trailblazing oil and gas women executives who are renowned for their unmatched expertise across the different business domains. And I picked them very strategically, covering the diverse business domains. So we get that narrative, widespread narrative. And these are all real life experiences or takeaways which are shared by them. I wrapped up this paper as a part of my capstone for my Wharton's executive program. So what I'll do is I'll quickly give you a little bit of flavor from that paper, if you are okay.
Yeah, definitely. Please.
So to your question, empowering the future leadership, that part I will cover first in oil and gas industry. It's not, as I said, it's not one mantra that will fit everything. It's a multifaceted approach. And it includes doing the proper networking, self-empowerment, mentorship, continued professional development, CPD, sponsorship, and networking. I already previously touched upon the mentorship part, but I would like to reiterate in one line that mentorship is mighty in all regards. So please go and get yourself a mentor. I mean, that's the first thing, I would suggest to all the young professionals. It surely provides a very structured approach for knowledge transfer, skills development, and career guidance, which are very essential for fostering leadership growth. Now, as far as self-empowerment is concerned, It is absolutely necessary to overcome the self-doubt, to break that internal bias. And similarly, allyship and sponsorship promotes collaboration, and it becomes very crucial for specifically for women leaders to excel in the least gender oil and gas industry. And now coming to CPD, continued professional development, undoubtedly embracing a lifelong learning enables us to stay ahead of the game and make informed decision. And I'm a lifelong learner myself, and I can vouch for the value that I gained from the Wardens program very recently. But I do believe that as our career progresses to senior leadership roles, networking becomes central to everything. And I will go back to a very good point that you made early, and I would like to expand around it, that it becomes central and it further support all the approaches that
Yes.
that I mentioned here. So personally, my vote goes to fostering relationships through networking. I believe as it holds the greatest potential for empowering leadership in the industry. And nevertheless, one key takeaway over here is when it comes to networking, we think about the personal gain that we can get out of it. But I think it's more about the potential to give back, and perhaps starting with giving back first. So it is important that we prioritize giving in all the senses and at all the levels first. And I believe that is one of the reasons we are doing this podcast
And
today, to prioritize giving, right?
definitely, definitely, and that's how it works. So when, as you said, like is always give and take, not in the negative sense, but in the positive sense.
Right, right.
Like also you have to see like what value you are bringing to someone to whom you are going to reach out to
Sure.
build your network. I will ask you one more question, Rakhi. What one bias do you see within or towards this oil and gas industry that might still exist today?
Anand, given the dynamic and competitive business landscape that we all are in, along with the global momentum towards net zero targets, this question is very relevant. So, the first thing that I still see in the oil and gas industry is the notion of profit over planet. Many of us still believe that the oil and gas industry prioritizes profit at the expense of environmental stewardship. You know, and doing so, we often overlook the significant investments that the industry has made in the cleaner technologies like carbon capture, efficiency improvement of the brownfield assets. We cannot just not think about the brownfield facilities or the existing infrastructure. We have to, greenfield, we have a complete control on, but what about brownfield? And I believe we are forgetting the fact that the industry has made a lot of efforts in this direction. And building on to that, another related bias that comes to my mind is, resistance to change. There's a very big perception across the industry that, and cross industry as well, that oil and gas industry is reluctant to innovate and very less agile when it comes to moving forward to a more sustainable future. But what I would like to highlight is oil and gas industry is a very mature industry. It is a highly regulated industry, and the change takes time. The results don't appear overnight. So we have to be very cognizant of these things. While we come up with our analogy, or while we come up with a statement that hey, oil and gas industry has a resistance to change compared to other industries.
I also see that bias.
Yeah.
But you and I, we both live in this world, and we understand that's not true.
Right.
So this industry is innovative and also doing lots of efforts to deal with this carbon neutrality, energy transition.
Yeah. And as I highlighted, it is a somewhat slow industry just because of the regulations that we have to stay abreast with. I'm very confident that we can define a sustainable future pragmatically. And such biases just obscure the nuanced efforts and challenges the industry faces in balancing the energy demands with the sustainability. And
Definitely.
in doing so, the pace won't be very agile and we won't see the changes overnight.
Yes.
So those are my 2 cents.
I agree. And so that's why patience is needed. It's not, as you mentioned, it's not going to change overnight, but lots of efforts are happening. And those changes are already appearing, and those will be more and more going forward.
Right.
So with that, all the interesting discussion, but we have to stop now. Thanks for sharing your journey and also talking about this industry in really in depth, so we can all had a good insights about how this industry is operating, and also if somebody is looking to make a big in this industry, as we talked about. So
Yeah.
with that, anything to add here, Rakhi, before we sign off?
Anand, I think I covered a lot, and it was very interesting to have this discussion. I wish you a very successful season, and I wish you will continue with this across the wider stakeholders, because it will bring a value added approach to the audience and to the listeners. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much, Rakhi. So with that, I will sign off for this week. Stay tuned, stay connected, and keep listening. Oil and Gas Breaking by Show. Have a great day.